Look at yourself.
What do you people see? Do you see the Matt Hardy that revolutionized the TLC match? Do you even see Matt Hardy version 1?
No. All I see is Matt Hardy version done.
Celebrating 12 years on the air and voted 2009 Broadcast Show of the Year. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, PWRshow.com, Blog Talk Radio, and all kinds of other media channels. Damian Nelson here live Wednesday night, September 8th, 2010, along with David Octavius, the Tiberius Hero. Yes. The Cause, Frank Cosentino.
Good evening.
Tillman behind the glass, along with Fish, making his long-awaited return. It's Vintage Fish tonight.
You could
still push the button. Thank you.
Whoa, wait a minute. Is this where the extra money's going?
Yes. Yeah, we're so big we need 2 producers now. Just saying. Again, live September 8th, 2010. Thank you for joining us on this very special Wednesday night show. We're Wednesdays all month, Wednesdays in September on 540 ESPN and streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com. This show's all about interaction. It's all about you listening out there in the world. You can join us on the phone line, the number 276-ESPN, 276-3776, or all over the world at 1-800-990-3776, 1-800-990-3776. We're also on Twitter. Our Twitter username is PWR Show. And we're going to be referring to some of your tweets all night long, including some interesting tweets. Some interesting tweets that happened and came through after WWE Raw.
You mean like your Boise State tweet?
This past Monday.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that? It was a great game, especially the finish. We're also in the chatmosphere at PWRshow.com, where the chat is blowing up. So join us and speak along with the show. We'll be referring to some of those comments as well. Have I showed enough?
Listen, hold on a second. I am not going to talk about Alicia Fox being undefined.
Why wouldn't you?
Because it's over with.
It's the biggest thing that happened in wrestling this week. She messed up one word.
One word, and there's no reason to talk about it.
I've noticed something about you.
What's that?
When there's nothing good to say about your faves,
yeah,
you tend to find a reason not to talk about them at all.
Well, you're always good to the people that are good to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
See?
First thing we're going to talk about is TNA No Surrender from this past Sunday night on pay-per-view, a pay-per-view that delivered in a lot of people's minds, and I'm interested to hear your perspective, Kaz, and your perspective, David, on the pay-per-view. If you haven't, be sure to check out the Pro Wrestling Report post-show of TNA No Surrender, available now at PWRshow.com, on iTunes, on our iTunes application, and also on Blog Talk Radio. You heard my thoughts on the pay-per-view, but we're going to go match by match and talk about the show overall and the fallout from TNA's No Surrender going into Bound for Glory, which is just about 1 month away now, 10-10-10, down in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm just saying.
You're just saying.
I'm just saying.
10-10-10?
10-10-10.
You know what's kind of wild about the PWR show we just did?
Hulk Hogan being in the
hospital?
It
was 01-01-01. Damien, is that like your little subliminal, dealio thing with your TNA contacts?
I do like messed. Everything happens for a reason. You're referring to the 13th season premiere of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
Fantastic show. Tremendous.
You enjoyed it, Frank? How'd you feel about it?
I feel pretty good.
Frank, with the hot news. It was a good show. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's airing on Time Warner Cable and also airing on demand at PWRshow.com. 13 seasons of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, 1 hour, full hour, and quite frankly, I'm not sure you need anything else aside from this radio show and the Pro Wrestling Report television. 3 hours of content each and every week, and pretty much everything in the wrestling business available on those shows. So, anyways, why don't we start talking about TNA No Surrender from this past Sunday night on pay-per-view. It was headlined, David, by a couple of things. We saw the main event take shape, so we thought.
Stop it.
We saw the main event take
Stop
shape.
it.
We saw the main event take shape for Bound for Glory as Ken Anderson defeated D'Angelo De Niro, the Pope, to secure his spot at Bound for Glory coming up in just about 1 month's time. However, things were not as clear on the side of Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy as that match ended in a no contest. So at this point in time, we really don't know what is happening at Bound for Glory. You will know after Impact this Thursday night. We won't spoil it for you.
Oh,
but,
come on.
Well, I'm just saying, some people don't like
Look
spoilers.
at the poster, right?
Well, what does that mean?
It means look at the poster. That's what it means.
Which poster? The
Bound for Glory poster.
The Bound for Glory poster?
The 10-10-10.
And we're not talking about those old phone numbers you used to dial about 10 years ago.
Oh,
no, not at all.
Dial down the middle, baby. But before we get to those marquee main event headlining matchups, let's talk about the other matchups on the card. As we learned going into the pay-per-view a few hours before, London Brawling Desmond Wolf and Magnus not able to participate in the show.
So disappointing.
You were hyping them up big time when you were
I was
being the
looking
booker
forward
last
to that
Friday night.
match. I thought that match was going to be awesome.
Off the charts.
It should have been.
It wasn't.
And then we get Hardy,
but
you
it
know.
wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad.
Frank.
I mean,
Magnus
it could have been a little better, sure, but
Magnus has a ton of potential. Desmond Wolf is
Who
a
does
star.
Magnus remind you of?
Who should he remind me of?
Wolverine. What's that actor's name?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Really? Wolverine?
He looks like
I've been
him.
playing that on
A little bit.
Xbox 360.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good game.
after the Boise State game, that's what he
Pretty
played.
brutal. All right, listen, if y'all going to play these games tonight, I enjoyed that game. What's wrong with that? Some sparkling HD.
Sparkling.
Sparkling.
Were you drinking something sparkling while you were watching that?
No, not at all. I just got done watching a replay of SmackDown, though.
Well, that's sparkling.
Motor City Machine Guns defending their World Tag Team Championships up against Generation Me. David Hero, you haven't been the biggest fan of Generation Me in the past.
No.
You say they need
To gain about 20 pounds?
and to look like
Men?
who should be on a national.
Television show.
They would not defeat the Motor City
Well,
Machine Guns.
first of all, they are talented, okay? But they just look like they're high school seniors. So it's hard to make it believable that they could beat grown men.
Maybe they shouldn't shave for a couple days.
What's so funny?
It's hard to believe that they can't beat grown men.
Well, seriously. Come on. Let's be honest. That'd be like having Cal beat Frank. Well, that could happen.
That could happen easily.
Frank doesn't take bumps. Generation Me, though, at the end of the matchup, showing a bit of a mean streak, attacking the Motor City Machine Guns and entering what looks to be a program with that team going forward, which could be interesting. But where does this leave London Brawling?
Up in the air at the moment. It's in Never Land. But I think these two have an opportunity at Bound for Glory, if it goes that direction, to put on a great matchup. If they play it right, we'll see.
Who knows? Maybe London Brawling will go into a few with beer money. That could be some good wrestling.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
The matchup overall was pretty good. I would say that they did a good job in this matchup of not just going from spot to spot to spot. This one, they actually told a little bit of a story, and it took us back to the time when TNA would start their pay-per-views very strong with an X Division type matchup, and then go upward or downward from there. This was back to the old formula of starting off with what TNA has been known for and has been defined as, which is excellent X Division style wrestling.
Which they're trying to obviously set themselves apart from WWE when it comes to that standpoint.
But maybe. They used to, yes.
Right. Which is what you were saying in going back to what they were trying to do. But I think that part of the program, it was intriguing. But I'll say it again for the 1000th time. While the wrestling is okay and the wrestlers themselves are doing a great job, the atmosphere just doesn't bring you to pay-per-view quality. That's a missing piece until they figure it out down there to put the whole package together. It's just gonna look like another show.
I will say this, which is good about the TNA pay-per-views, is that the fans in the Impact Zone are much more hardcore TNA fans than just the standard theme park fare that might pass by and walk into the sound stage during their Monday, Tuesday TV tapings.
Right.
And that does add to the show. The fans, I think, this past Sunday at No Surrender were good. and they certainly were better than the Impact fans, and they really knew what they wanted and were into the show overall. I think starting with Jin Mi versus the Motor City Machine Guns for the Tag Team Championships was very good. And obviously, the Motor City Machine Guns have seemingly stepped up to another level. They're not jokesters so much anymore, which I thought was working for them. And they're a bona fide real tag team. And many would say it was that program and that series of matchups with Beer Money that put them to that next level. Going forward, it was a match for the X Division Championship. Douglas Williams defending his title against he's homicidal, suicidal, genocidal Sabu. This one was slow, but not sure the crowd cared about it. I will give credit to Mike Tenay and Taz, who took advantage of the opportunity to talk up the EV2 versus Fortune story, giving some backstory and reasons to the matchup.
What else were they going to say?
Well, sometimes they don't tend to fill in the blanks for the viewer at home. This match started off slow. It started off better than it ended, though, because once Sabu got his hands on the chair and started trying to maneuver and finagle that, it started to get a little sloppy. And people are saying Sabu equals botch fest. Sabu equals missed moves, missed spots. Given the style in which he wrestles, I don't know if it's a botch fest or more so it's difficult to do. I mean, it's sort of Sabu's style.
But if it doesn't work, then don't do it.
But haven't fans accepted over the years that a move here or there may not go as perfectly as
I don't think so.
They haven't?
Well, fans are looking for something different out of him, or at least what they saw in the past from him.
Fans are looking for something to complain about.
Well, that too.
Whoa.
But when you're taking that many risks, there's the opportunity, obviously, the percentage of something going wrong is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the old ECW fans were looking for the old Sabu. It's not going to happen anymore. So,
is Sabu still worthwhile in the wrestling business? Does he put the proverbial butts in the seats?
No. In my opinion, no. As a guy that would book a show, I don't think I would book Sabu in the show.
You're letting this be the Booker thing go to your head from Friday night.
Not at all.
There's no whiteboard here in the radio studio. I'm just saying.
How dare you? How dare you?
Doug Williams retains the X Division Championship in that matchup against Sabu. Next matchup was for, it was the knockouts, and it was Madison Rayne with Tara going up against Velvet Sky with Angelina Love. We'll talk more about this match and the rest of TNA No Surrender along with your phone calls when we come back here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN. The sports Milwaukee cares about all day long on 540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com and PWRshow.com. Damian Nelson, along with the Kaz and David Octavius Tiberius Hero, coming to you live Wednesday night, September 8th, 2010. You know, I gotta say though, seeing Angelina Love come out to that music again is the way it should be.
Does it give you goosebumps?
You know what I don't understand? Okay, puppies made sense. Pigeons. I just don't understand pigeons. Taz's always saying let the pigeons loose. I get it, but what? Pigeons.
Pigeons are known for delivering messages and pooping.
You guys.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
You know what? We're talking about.
Maybe he doesn't want to take puppies. Maybe he says pigeons.
Well, he took Well, Here Comes the Pain and made it Well, Here Comes the Pope.
As long as they don't take Tremendous or Thanks, Pal, we got no problem.
That's right. How long do you think it's going to be before that makes there?
It better not.
What?
The only one that can use a Thanks, Pal that has been given permission is Ken Anderson. That's it.
Wait a minute. Now Today and Taz can use it if they want. What about JB? Can JB use it?
Hey, that's your call.
We were talking about TNA No Surrender on pay-per-view, and as you heard the music, the beautiful people, the next matchup on the card was Madison Rayne along with Tara, unveiled last Thursday on Impact as the bodyguard, going up against Velvet Sky with Angelina Love. Exactly. Here's the question. Why is Tara back? I mean, what has it done?
Nothing at the moment.
They needed a brunette knockout.
That's about it.
They just couldn't have Hamada. They have to have one more.
No disrespect to Tara, but I mean, it's just I don't think it had any impact. No pun intended. When she did the unveiling and was back, and I don't think they fully explained it. Now I didn't see the complete explanation on Reaction last week, but it's just like, all right, well, but she got fired. She lost the loser leaves town match or whatever it was, and why is she back?
Well, because the person that beat her in the loser career match can bring her back.
Is that an unwritten rule?
Absolutely it is.
Change the rules whenever they want and however they want.
Just when you think you know the answers, I change all the questions? Who said it, Frank? Who said it, Dave?
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper. Roddy the Hot Rod.
Just when you think you know all the answers, I change the question.
What will be the savior for the Knockouts division? A lot of rumors going around out there that Mickie James is going to be coming into the Knockouts division for TNA soon.
Do you think Mickie James can be that much of a difference?
They
in the beginning it could,
but they haven't never gotten a marquee diva from WWE.
Okay,
Victoria was not a marquee diva,
but think about it. Every time they brought in a marquee player,
but not diva,
it hasn't changed anything.
But the Knockouts division has certainly been disintegrated from what the greatness that it once was, led by Awesome Kong and Gail Kim.
Okay.
So
is Mickie a heel? Because obviously the beautiful people now are the baby faces.
Which version of the beautiful people? Loving
the real ones.
Oh. Well, Mickie James came in as a heel in WWE.
Right.
She feuded with Trish Stratus for those almost seemed like 2 years, and actually that tandem they worked pretty well. It was a
great match at WrestleMania 22.
I thought that was a good story on how she wanted to be her and stuff like that. So she can come into TNA easily, play the heel role, and I think in the beginning there'll be interest. But again, it's who are you going to match her up with to keep that and sustain that? That's always TNA's challenge.
Rosie Lotta Love? Oh, she's gone.
If they want to improve the knockouts, they sign Serena, Mickie James, Deeb, and Katie Lee Burchill.
Yeah.
Speaking of signing Serena, I think she's on a marquee event. We'll talk more about that later. A big announcement. Serena Deeb signing up for some wrestling shows. We'll have that later, Dave?
Absolutely.
Tremendous. Next matchup was Rhino versus Abyss. This was Falls Count Anywhere, and due to that stipulation, it quickly goes outside the ring, including outside the impact zone, including under the Rip Ride and Rocket roller coaster, and then back into the impact zone where we saw Abyss get the win over Rhino after Rhino missed the gore, and hit the steel barricade, and succumbed to Abyss.
The Black Hole Slam. I mean, did anyone really think Rhino had a chance?
No.
You know,
there's always the surprise fact that you're waiting for in every pay-per-view. That didn't happen, obviously.
Well, not to a guy that they've invested the last 6 months into. They're not going to do that.
No. So you're going into it thinking, well, first of all, we have to find out who Day is and all that jazz. So, of course, Abyss is not going to lose that momentum going into finally when he makes whatever that is.
Right.
Next matchup was a tag team matchup. It was Kevin Nash teaming up with Sting, the old Wolfpack, if you will, going up against Jeff Jarrett and Samoa Joe. Overall, a decent matchup, but the true standout in this matchup had to be Samoa Joe.
How many things have changed? Think about how it was for him 2 to 3 years ago, and where he is right now.
He was headlining main event in their pay-per-views,
and now it's what he is now.
Things don't go well when you go barging into the production truck. You tried it once. And they mentioned that on air, by the way, at No Surrender or on Reaction.
Yeah, but eventually, just let that go. Eventually, don't you think?
You're gonna have to. Something's gonna give eventually.
Right.
What's the normal statute of limitations in the wrestling business, David Hero, when bygones become bygones?
Depends who it is.
We've seen as few as a couple months. We've seen as long as 13 years with Brett and Vince.
I mean, that was a totally different level.
It depends who it is. I mean, look at Triple H, how he was punished for being a part of the Madison Square Garden farewell.
Right.
It's hard to say. It all depends on where you're on the card and how much money you're making for the company. I mean, look at Randy Orton. Look at all the things he's done.
Right.
He's never been punished. He's never been sent home.
The matchup overall, I'm not sure where we're going with this whole storyline, and if we're going anywhere beyond this. But these four men involved, you don't know where Samoa Joe's really aligned with, if he's out for himself or is he aligning with Jeff Jarrett, and
he's lost.
What is Kevin Nash and Sting's motivations, and whatever happened or what's going to happen with that whole angle they're playing up between them and Hogan and Bischoff and Dixie Carter. There's a lot mixed in this particular matchup, in this scenario, but what's the end game? Where's it going?
The scrambled mess at the moment that eventually some of the fans are going to say, okay, guys, let's move the story along a little bit, because there's so much talent there, and to waste it on stories that are, okay, well, let's kind of go this way halfway and see what we get. That's where I feel that Samoa Joe is in a place where he's like in a gray spot, where he's in fog.
David Hero, you said several months ago that TNA needs to reintroduce or introduce their stars to the fans, and you said that they're doing this somewhat on reaction at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What is necessary to put Samoa Joe back in that top billing position in the company? What must they do to elevate his role yet again?
I think they need to go back and dust off some of his old indie footage of when he first started.
Who is Samoa Joe?
Yeah, who he is, how he started, the road he traveled, how he got there, what he's done. And I think the fans will embrace that and want to be a part of that. Wow, this guy paid his dues.
All right. Next matchup was Tommy Dreamer versus AJ Styles in an I Quit match. This was a decent match, and it showed a lot of intensity from AJ Styles, who put a little realism to the term. Stick a fork in him.
Yeah.
He's done. Winning the matchup with a fork to the eye as Tommy Dreamer actually gives up and says, I quit. Not sure how many times that's happened in his career, but a matchup that I think told the story of EV2 versus Fortune a lot better than the earlier matchup between Williams and Sabu. This, I thought, was a good matchup, a little long. I think it went about 17 or 18 minutes, which I'm not complaining about, by the way. AJ Styles dominant in that matchup over Tommy Dreamer. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I thought it was okay. I did think it was. I thought it was long, though. I really got to be honest. That was about.
Are you that new wrestling fan that longer than 8-minute match is too long for you?
It depends on how the match flows, and in this case, I thought it went too long. But AJ delivers once again, and I really can't remember the last time that he had a bad pay-per-view match where I was like, that was brutal from beginning to end. He delivered once again, and to me, proves that he's still a top star in TNA.
It's about time AJ Styles took control of his character.
Yeah.
And beat Tommy Dreamer at his own game.
Mm-hmm.
It was big. If AJ Styles would have lost that match, I don't think he could have rebuilt himself again. Because it's like, wow.
Damage would have been too much?
I think so. Because now he's not a tough guy because he quit. Tommy Dreamer can quit, and next week he'll be just fine because, okay, it was a fork to the eye.
Right.
Who wouldn't say, I quit to that? But, damn, what the hell was he wearing?
That was
winner outfit on September pay-per-views, Melina or Tommy Dreamer?
Just because it's a guy wearing it, I'm going to go with Tommy Dreamer.
No.
Do you know
the
what's funny?
Cooker.
Do you know what's funny is, did you catch SmackDown that Friday after that pay-per-view, and Lay Cool was talking about the same thing we talked about on Primetime, which was what the heck was she wearing? And went through the whole list of the same people who he said, Gobbledygooker, Big Bird, all that stuff. It was very, very funny to listen to. That was on SmackDown, David Hero, which is on Friday night. So.
Yeah. You know what? Friday night's kind of busy sometimes. I got to DVR that stuff.
Absolutely.
One of two main events. Not sure which of these two were the headliners, if not both of them, but it was Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle. Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle for a spot in the main event at TNA's Bound for Glory pay-per-view coming up next month. This one is going to take a long time to explain what happened and to discuss. So we're going to take a time out, and when we come back, more on TNA No Surrender here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
They talking about Magic Johnson.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We've got the magic, baby.
Yeah, that's great.
We peaked on YouTube last week, one of the top 10 rated and top 10 most discussed shows. We're number 2 in all sports shows and the number 1 wrestling show on Blog Talk Radio right now. We got the magic, baby.
We're number 1.
Numero uno.
Voted 2009 Broadcast Show of the Year. That voting actually is starting up again at WrestlingRadio.com. And speaking of the magic, we're going to have a guest on in just a little while. Dave Prazak of Ring of Honor Wrestling is going to be coming on, talking to us.
And Shimmer.
Indeed, and Ring of Honor's got that huge pay-per-view this Saturday night, coming to you on the interweb, and we'll hear all about that. Tyler Black, will he walk out? Still the Ring of Honor champion. One would say that chance is doubtful. Coming up later, Dave Prazak. Prazak goes way back here in the Milwaukee area.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him years upon years ago at those old the Mid-American shows. And
He used to manage CM Punk.
yes, he did. It's part of the, what was the faction?
The Gold Bond Mafia.
Indeed. All right, so that's still to come.
Isn't
here
that
on the
like
Magical.
a distant relation for you, Frank?
Possibly.
Frank, you don't like magic?
Not that song particularly. I'm more
What are you
of
going to do when we're in the ATL next year for WrestleMania? PLB's from there, you know.
Yeah,
WrestleMania.
27th.
7 months.
It's 7 months away.
I think it is 7.
It's right around the corner. Anyway,
Oh, my God.
let's get back on track. We're talking about TNA No Surrender on pay-per-view. I want to thank everybody for joining us on PWRshow.com in the chatmosphere right now. And also...
Lots of love in the chatmosphere, isn't there?
Absolutely. Killa DMC at BChat says, I got the magic. However, Troy Boy says, my ears are bleeding.
You know what was the best part, though, was watching
There you go,
Frank
Troy.
bob
I'm
his
with
head.
He was bobbing his head. Not like, but like,
It was
yeah.
it was shaking the head.
Oh, okay.
He had his hands up. They were playing a song. All right, so Kurt Angle versus Jeff Hardy at TNA's No Surrender this past Sunday night on pay-per-view. Up at stake was a spot in the main event of Bound for Glory. What's wrong, David?
You know, when I saw this match, I'm thinking, it's 10-9. There's got to be another match in between.
Right.
There's no way they're going to give 2 matches, over an hour. There's no way. Sure enough, they found a way to do it.
And that way was interesting, to say the least. And, gentlemen, I would venture to say we've never seen anything like it on pay-per-view. The match started off a little slow. Here was my challenge in this matchup. Watching it, I'm wondering what's going to be the end game. Because you got a man in Kurt Angle who is, by his own admission, in pretty rough shape. Who can still go, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You got a man by the name of Jeff Hardy who
can be in rough shape.
Every risk imaginable. And with these two men trying to one-up each other, I was deeply concerned about what kind of injuries we'd see in this matchup. And we saw things get off to what was pretty slow and methodical start, but not a bad one, really get amped up towards the end of the matchup. And then the surprising 20-minute draw, when I don't think we were told it had a 20-minute time limit. And then things got very interesting from there. The match ends in a no contest. Eric Bischoff comes out to just about no reaction, which was surprising. He talks to Dixie Carter, who was already at ringside. And then
don't you think she'd have a better seat than that?
Well, no, and then they said, second row hard camera side. That's what she always says. And then they said, Dixie is out here just to watch this match because of how important it is. Yet, how many times do we hear them talk about how Dixie is there every week?
Right, and no other match is important at all.
Yeah. So, after consulting with Dixie Carter, Eric Bischoff gets and announces that it is going to be 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes for Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle. And there should be a winner so we can figure out who's going into Bound for Glory. Well, didn't happen. Time ends again. Bischoff starts the clock again. 5 more minutes. So we're in a total of 30 minutes in this very important epic matchup. At this point during the final 5-minute period, we see both men, hit their finishers several times. We see Jeff Hardy in the ankle lock for a sum of about 4 of those 5 minutes, it felt like. Angle gets cut open. He's bleeding profusely. They make a big deal out of how much he's bleeding right off the bat, which wasn't obvious until Eric Bischoff and the trainers got in the ring and said that Kurt Angle could not continue. He was bleeding too much, and this match would be stopped as a no contest. So, we have no winner. We have no second half of the main event at Bound for Glory at this point. Gentlemen, your thoughts on this matchup, which was unique in its delivery, unique in the extra time, and very good in its final execution. A good match, a very good matchup. A lot of people saying those magic words, match of the year. I'm not sure I'm there with this particular matchup, but let's hear your thoughts on Kurt Angle versus Jeff Hardy.
Well, first of all, again, DQs on pay-per-views and all that, way to go. I hate it. But it was a good match. But in order for me to make it a match that's worthy of match of the year, it's got to be a winner. In my opinion, there's got to be a winner. I liked how they extended it. If you're going to keep extending, well then put a winner in there. That's all I'm asking.
They're telling a story, Frank.
You can tell the story during the week. You can tell the story. It's just me.
You're a little bitter.
I am, because you sit there and you get emotionally involved in a match like that, and then you have the 5 minutes and you have the Dixie Carter thing, and you're like, great. Guess what, guys? We don't know who wins.
You know what? I was surprised that Jimmy Borash didn't say there was 10 seconds left.
Oh, the countdown. You need the countdown.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you need that.
That'll always bother me, because it was a solid match. It wasn't match of the year, but it was solid, except the end. That stuff will always bother me.
David Hero, your thoughts on this one of 2 headlining main event matchups?
Okay, wise guy. You know, for me nowadays, I got to watch wrestling with the kids. It's just easier to watch, easier to follow. So
easier to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, Cal and Angela, they were into the match, jumping up and down on the couch, having a good time watching it. And Jeff Hardy, they love Jeff Hardy. The match was slow to begin with, super slow.
I think they did that purposely, don't you think?
Well, obviously they had to pace themselves, but they also, I don't think they were familiar with each other enough for them to click. And then finally things started going. Once again, Jeff Hardy killed Kurt Angle with that swanton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happens all the time, but it does.
Dislocated rib.
Well, that was the one. That was a swanton from the floor.
Yeah.
But the one in the ring I thought looked even worse.
Mm-hmm.
But
here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
I was waiting for the thing.
This match for me should have gone on last. It should have been the last match. Well, here's why. Because Ken and the Pope, they couldn't do nothing to follow that.
They're in a bad spot.
I mean, that's not fair to those two guys to go out there now to try to get the live crowd back involved in their match. I could have handled, Frank, here's how I look at it.
Yeah.
If that match is a draw and the pay-per-view goes off the air with both guys looking at each other, the referee's uncertain,
right.
It almost makes you now want to say, well, what's going to happen next?
Makes you not want to say that?
No, it makes you want to say, what's going to happen next? So it's going to make me want to watch Impact. Now, here's where TNA is kind of getting screwed because they don't have Impact tomorrow night.
Right.
Okay, so now you got to wait an extra week coming off a pay-per-view.
And the anticipation grows.
Well, more people will forget about it.
There you go.
Okay?
There you go. There's just too much in between.
So, really, that match should have gone on last. And I don't mind a match like that can be a double count-out, can be a double DQ, can be a draw, because they're eventually going to go somewhere with it. It's the two biggest. It's two of the biggest stars they got. And what kind of gave it away for me was when Taz kept saying, "Wow, Jeff Hardy must be a great fan of RVD. He's not giving up." I'm like, wait a minute. Now what's he telling us?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'm like, okay, well now he's not going to tap.
No, that wasn't going to happen. And like I said, it delivered, but you can tell stories during the week. Give us a winner on pay-per-views.
Frank.
Hey, I liked it.
Frank. They are going to get another week out of this match.
This Thursday night on Impact.
Still get another week out of it.
Next Thursday night on Impact, rather, you're going to see the rematch between Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy for that spot in the main event at Bound for Glory. Yep.
Can we now talk about the second semifinal match of the evening?
Here's what we're going to do, David. Just so I can soak up this moment as best as I possibly could. February 12th, September 3rd. Those are the dates that you will live in infamy for. Those are the two dates that you inserted that rag you were using to wipe the whiteboard off with right into your mouth. We're going to talk about the main event.
No.
We're going to talk about the main event when we come back here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Thank you for tuning in here on this special Wednesday night show during prime time. Talking about TNA No Surrender on pay-per-view this past Sunday night. If you didn't get a chance, you can take a look at last week's PWR Prime Time, available on demand at PWRshow.com, our television show, where David Hero and I went through the card, and David Hero rebooked before it was booked the matchups for TNA No Surrender. And David, a lot of people say they like your version a little bit better.
Well, mine was more entertaining.
Because it was EPO?
It was EPO. Did you see, though, if you think about on the whiteboard, what was the last match I had written down?
I don't know, but this music is fitting. Why don't you go ahead and tell us why it wasn't the main event?
Because
the Pope versus Ken Anderson.
Well, here's why. Because they had to have time to get Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle. They had to make sure there was plenty of time for that. They had to tell that story, which, like I said, was so not fair to Ken Anderson, the Pope. You saw it. They came out, the people sat on their hands. And those guys worked hard to get where they were.
So here's my question. You sent me a text a couple of months ago.
Yes.
It was the WWE Extreme Rules pay-per-view poster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's how you headline a main event.
Yes.
Because it was Sheamus on the poster.
Right.
Who was on the poster for No Surrender?
Ken Anderson.
So how is that not the headlining match?
It wasn't because there was no advertised headlining match. Sheamus was the world champion at that time. What I was saying about then is that one pay-per-view back in February. The Pope wasn't even on the poster. Listen, you guys don't get it. When Hulk Hogan wrestled King Kong Bundy, and he was on before intermission, that was the main event. The Killer Bees versus the Hart Foundation that ended the show was not the main event. It was the last match.
So what's the main event on Saturday's main event?
Whatever they're going to promote.
Match usually was the main event.
Yeah, usually.
You sounded like Kramer. Why don't you just tell me what's on?
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?
But what a great night that was.
The Pope versus Ken Anderson, victorious.
Finally took care of business for me.
Goes into his TNA World Championship matchup at Bound for Glory up against a person to be determined or persons to be determined next week on
you know what,
Impact.
though?
You can find all the spoilers and information on PWRshow.com right now.
Here's the thing, all right? If you're the Pope, how do you really feel? Okay? 3 of the 4 guys have a chance to be in the main event and not him. You know that?
Man, you could spin it all you want at this point.
Well, no. Think about it. I mean, just imagine his psyche right now. 3 of the 4 guys have a chance to be headlining in the next Bound for Glory pay-per-view. True headlining it.
That's true.
So does that mean Ken Anderson think he's there yet?
Man,
the match itself.
Am I right? Tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Tell me. Exactly.
I always play in the middle.
Exactly.
The match itself. The Pope versus Ken Anderson on TNA No Surrender last Sunday. That was a good match. It was a match that, as you said, David Hero was in a bad spot. And really, I'm not sure how fair it was to anybody, including us viewers, that match was where it was, because it was a draining match before, an exciting match before, and the bar had been raised not just as high as Tommy Dreamer said it was from Hardcore Justice, but raised entirely. And, the Pope wasn't pimping as much as he needed to be because he couldn't beat Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, he wasn't pimping.
It was brutal. Well, the match was good.
The match was rough. It was hard to watch because, like I said, the crowd wasn't into it, and the guys were doing everything they could.
That's true. But the wrestling itself, those guys gave it all they could correct. I thought overall the match was not bad at all. But I thought Pope did well.
Like I said.
Well, Anderson did well.
Everything was good in the world after that show was over. Because Ken Anderson was going to headline Bound for Glory.
Right. And you leave the fans home or let them go happy.
Yeah, he got out there. He got to do his little thing on the mic.
Yep.
The Anderson. I was pleased. Thank God Ken didn't let me down again. Because I honestly, I couldn't. I'd be like Nexus. They'd have to rebuild me because I've been buried by everybody out there.
It'd be like a Weird Science kind of thing, huh?
It'd been terrible.
Well, we did ask the fans on our live post show of TNA No Surrender what they thought of the pay-per-view, and overwhelmingly, it was a passing show for them. I think TNA tuned into the WWE philosophy of end strong on No Surrender, and they ended strong. Now, in my opinion, this makes 2 strong months of pay-per-view from TNA from an entertainment standpoint. If it was an EPO kind of rating, then I think they had success on both shows. As you said, David Hero, no Impact this Thursday night due to preemption by Spike TV. They're going to have an online show, including some special question and answer sessions with TNA President Dixie Carter.
What's taking their place on tomorrow night?
Some movie. I forget.
Seriously?
A premiere or something.
Yeah. Do you know what I think it is? They don't want to go up against the first football game of the year.
Oh, that's part of it, absolutely. That's a huge NFL game.
Vikings and Saints.
NFC Championship.
Go Brett Favre.
Why?
Frank.
Still to come here on the show, we're going to talk about Still to come here on the show, we're going to talk about WWE's NXT version 3. Raw from this past Monday night. We got some hot news, and also going to be talking to Dave Prazak, who wants to talk a little bit about Shimmer, Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor pay-per-view this Saturday, this weekend, featuring 3 huge matchups, including many more. And if I didn't say it already, Raw from this past Monday night. So much to get to. Let's get to a phone call real quick, and we appreciate our very patient callers from all over the world. Let's go over to Detroit, Michigan. Let's take Dwayne. You're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, Dwayne.
First thing, the new prime time is awesome. I loved it.
Thank you very much for tuning in.
My question is, do you see TNA being around for the next 5 years?
Thank you, Dwayne in Detroit. Do we see TNA being around for the next 5 years?
I hope so.
Yes.
5 years ago, I think people might have been asking that same question, Dwayne, to be honest with you. I think 5 years into WWE, 7 years into WWE, they may have been asking that same question as well. I don't think anybody was asking that question in 2000 of WCW, though. And the point I'm making is it's very unpredictable what might happen in this business, and difficult to say what weird things may happen in this business 6 months, 12 months, or even 5 years from now. But it's for the better of all professional wrestling fans that TNA be around for at least the next 5 years.
I think it'll be around for 5 more years. Whether it be on the same channel, that's a different story. But I think they'll be around. I don't know if Hulk Hogan or even Dixie Carter, for that matter, will be involved.
Dixie will be there until the end.
Well,
this is her baby.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, money
Hulk
talks.
Hogan depends on his back right now, brother.
I tweeted out the other day. I'm not sure.
What do you say? He wanted a beer?
Him having access to Twitter and TwitVid is the best thing that could have happened to TNA.
Why not?
Well, firstly, he's talking about how he's just laid back watching Raw this past Monday night.
Well, why would he lie?
Which, again, but I have respect for your own company that's doing tapings at that same time.
Right.
Just saying.
Well, but he's in the hospital. What's he going to do?
He's raised the bar. He has
drugged.
raised the bar again, saying TNA is going to again change the wrestling business forever. We'll talk more about that when we get to hot news as well. This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Who in the WWE can say that they've delivered their finishing move to The Undertaker and John Cena in the same night? I can.
Here from day one, those guys are outsiders. There's been a lot of outsiders in TNA. And the ratings, well, where'd they go? Let me tell you where they went. They plummeted. When these guys weren't in the ring taking care of business, they went downhill. They're here. Here we are back with it. Where's the ratings going? Back up where they should be.
Take a look at yourself. Take a good look. What do you see? What do you people see? Do you see the Matt Hardy that revolutionized the TLC match? Do you even see Matt Hardy version 1? No. All I see is Matt Hardy version done.
Celebrating 12 years on the air and voted 2009 Broadcast Show of the Year. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com, PWRshow.com, on Blog Talk Radio, and so many more, including the ESPN Radio app and the PWR iTunes app. Damian Nelson here along with the Cos, Frank Costantino, and David Octavius, the Tiberius Hero.
Octavius.
The Tiberius.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, have you calmed down a little?
I'm fine. I'm great. I'm good.
Let's talk about NXT. NXT this past Tuesday night. It was the debut of Season 3 of NXT. And as you know, this season, all dedicated to the Divas.
Yes.
And finding
It's a great show.
Finding one new diva, if you will, for WWE. We've talked about the pairings. We've talked about some of the odd pairings that there may be. As we know, Eloisa removed from the program last week. Her coach or her pro, Vicky Guerrero, finding a replacement for her this past week.
And she can thank Frank for getting her off the show.
I thought we were going to thank Frank for Caitlyn.
Well, no, because Frank found the erotic
photos.
Yes,
I saw them. They're not so erotic. I guess, well, maybe they were TV-14. I don't know. But it's AJ, it's Oksana, it's Jamie, it's Caitlyn, it's Maxine, Naomi, all on this season of NXT. And really, a lot of people had some bad things to say about the show this past Tuesday night. It was certainly entertaining. Well, it was entertainment-driven. And I would say the standout on the show were two people, Naomi and Vicky Guerrero.
This is going to be brutal.
Excuse me!
But
Vicky,
the Vicky,
who has more heat than
no.
Vicky?
Vicky's good. Vicky, I agree with. But no, this, in all due respect, this is going to be a brutal NXT.
No, it's not. It's going to be fine. These girls have not been put in this spot before.
Well, right.
You know, give them time.
Challenge.
Give them time to get used to being in front of the camera, Frank. You know?
I'll give them a week.
Okay?
Or
you know, let's think about it.
It's something good to look at, I'll say that.
With the exception of our next guest who does Shimmer Wrestling, okay, a lot of these girls don't get that much TV time. They're mostly just brought out as valets, or they get one match that lasts less than 5 minutes. It's going to take some time.
That's all I'm saying. When they do have their matches against each other, and they better be short, sweet, because we all know that the matches, both in WWE and sometimes in TNA, when those women's matches get a bit long, the fans start to sleep.
Not if it's a good match.
Well,
that's
it's hard to tell a story when you don't even know them.
When they're short and sweet, that's when women's wrestling will not get any better. And the reason they don't know them is because they haven't been introduced yet. That's what NXT is all about.
Right.
And Alicia Fox will make sure her rookie.
That's the challenge for the pros, quote unquote.
You know why they attach the pros to the rookies? Because the rookies don't have the star power
but
yet.
they also need a mouthpiece.
Well, but this way you can relate to them.
Yeah.
Well, look at how much we bashed and people bashed the Late Cool and Cavo pairing. And look how it ended up pairing out. I'm not just talking about him winning, but it became probably one of the most entertaining pieces of Season 2 of NXT. We're going to pick on this Friday's primetime, you and me, David.
Oh, boy.
Our Season 3 winners. Frank Costantino, you're on the spot right now. I'll run down the list. You get to pick who you think is going to win Season 3. Now, just so that everyone knows.
Show Frank the pictures.
Just so that everyone knows.
I got to refresh my memory.
There's only one person who picked the right winner for Season 2 of NXT, and that's this guy.
And there's only one that picked Season 1. That's this guy.
So, Frank, it could be your season to shine. Will it be AJ with Primo Cologne, Oksana Bayul with Goldust, Jamie with the Bella Twins, Caitlyn with Vicky Guerrero, Maxine with Alicia Fox, or Naomi, who used to be a backup dancer for Flo Rida, with Kelly Kelly?
Okay, who's the one that was the ring announcer?
AJ.
That's who I'm going with.
Jamie.
That's who I'm going with.
All right.
Oh, all right.
Although Maxine...
You're wrong, but that's okay.
Well, no, I think Maxine will be there towards the end, but I got to pick somebody else. If we all pick the same, then
no, that means you'll be right.
We
I don't know.
encourage you to email us your picks as well for Season 3 of NXT. You can do so via the website, pwrshow.com. And we will go ahead and reference those when Season 3 is over, which is going to be longer than 2 weeks from now, which is what we originally thought. The video now already available at WWE.com. One would presume that after October 4th, 1st, whenever it is, when SmackDown moves to Sci-Fi and NXT is the lead-in for SmackDown, that it's going to be a .com-only program, which is not a bad strategy by WWE.
That's the best thing for it.
Absolutely. Certainly not what they want, but won't be a failure in that regard. We're going to take a time out. When we come back, we welcome our guest this week, Dave Prazak of Ring of Honor Wrestling and Shimmer. This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com, PWRshow.com, and on Blog Talk Radio. We're live Wednesday, September 8, 2010. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero and the Kaz, Frank Cosentino. And I'd like to welcome our guest right now of Shimmer Wrestling and Ring of Honor Wrestling, Dave Prazak. First time on the program. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Damian. How you guys doing tonight?
We are
Doing
tremendous.
well. Dave, a lot going on with you. First, let's talk about Ring of Honor Wrestling. This Saturday, it's Glory by Honor 9, available on GoFightLive.tv. You are one of the voices of Ring of Honor, along with Mike Hodgwood. Obviously, your experience in wrestling goes much, much further than that, but some big matchups. Can we get your perspective on some of those big matchups coming up on Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor, specifically Austin Aries versus Christopher Daniels?
Well, Austin Aries and Christopher Daniels are, without a doubt, two of the best athletes in professional wrestling today. And it's Ring of Honor's privilege to have them on the event. Former two-time world champion Austin Aries and Christopher Daniels, someone who, upon making his return to ROH after being absent for a year or two, made it known that he's here with a purpose, and that is to prove that he is the best in the world, and the only way to do that is to work his way into a future world title shot and to achieve the goal that he hasn't been able to achieve. He was part of Ring of Honor from the very beginning and still has yet to win the ROH World Championship. So it's an important match for Christopher Daniels taking on someone like Austin Aries, because Daniels wants to position himself to go after whoever walks out of Glory by Honor with the belt.
And two tremendous athletes. Austin Aries, he's been on this show before. Daniel's been on the show before many a time as well. Just fascinating in-ring talent. Should be a great matchup between those two, and one that's really been talked about a lot because it's a tag team a lot of people have wanted to see again in the ring for a very long time. The reuniting world's greatest tag team of Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin going up against the Kings of Wrestling.
Kings of Wrestling are the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, and people can say that Haas and Benjamin are the world's greatest tag team, but they have to prove it in the Kings of Wrestling's backyard in the ROH ring in Manhattan. The New York City fans might not like Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli very much, but at the same time, they are the Ring of Honor regulars, and it should be interesting just to see what the live reaction is to Haas and Benjamin in ROH. I mean, I think that the ROH fan base can appreciate their athleticism, but the point is they are outsiders coming into ROH, and the fans are very devoted to the company. So will they choose to cheer the Kings of Wrestling in that match, or will they side with Haas and Benjamin? It should be interesting, and it will be on internet pay-per-view for those who can't be there in New York City to watch live on the internet.
And finally, the main event, the headlining match, too. Tyler Black, current Ring of Honor Wrestling champion, going up against Roderick Strong, and the special enforcer outside the ring is the ever-so-funny and ever-so-talented and ever-so-crazy Terry Funk.
Unfixable Terry Funk. I believe that he's the ringside vigilante. That's what Jim Cornette said about Terry Funk. He will make sure that no shenanigans go on, although it is going to be a no disqualification match for the title, as was requested by Roderick Strong and his life intervention expert, Truth Martini. They feel that Roderick Strong has been screwed time and time again by the Ring of Honor officials, by Jim Cornette, by ROH President Kerry Silkin, and he demanded that it would be no disqualification, so there are no excuses and everything, and Tyler Black agreed to it. So The title will be on the line. Tyler Black has stated that he plans on finishing up with Ring of Honor as the champion and walking out of the company and heading to Florida Championship Wrestling with the belt. But this is also Roderick Strong's opportunity to keep that belt in Ring of Honor and to achieve his goal, which, he's never been ROH World Champion. He's had the tag team titles in the past. But can Roderick Strong make Truth Martini very happy and bring home the gold to the House of Truth on Saturday?
That's Saturday night. It's Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor 9. It's an internet pay-per-view available at GoFightLive.tv. But you can get all the information at Ring of Honor Wrestling or ROHWrestling.com. Dave Prazak, it's interesting, the various things that you're involved with in wrestling. We were talking before we went on air about
Damien,
how much we remember.
Damien, he's got the greatest gig in all of wrestling.
He gets to work with
wrestling? Yeah, he gets to work with 20 or 30 hot chicks every couple of months.
And they answer to you, right, Dave?
And he's the boss, tells them what to do. Come on.
Tell us a little bit about Shimmer, company that you founded.
Well, it is all-female professional wrestling. I actually wear many hats in pro wrestling, and actually the Glory by Honor internet pay-per-view will be hosted by Kevin Kelly and Joe Dombrowski on Saturday because I have Shimmer duties to tend to. We're going to be filming 2 days worth of DVDs, 4 DVD releases in suburban Chicago at the Eagles Club in Berwyn, Illinois, on Saturday and Sunday. So I will be in Berwyn this weekend, and we'll have to catch the replay of Glory by Honor. But yeah, we have over 25 of the top female pro wrestlers in the world. We have 4 wrestlers out of Australia coming in for the tapings, about 5 or 6 from Canada. We spare no expense to bring the best to the Eagles Club in Berwyn. We have 4 wrestlers from Japan, including TNA's Ayako Hamada, as well as 3 young Joshi athletes, Ayumi Kurihara, Tomoka Nakagawa, and Misaki Ohata. So it is really going to be a who's who of women's wrestling. And with Shimmer, we try to put the emphasis on the athletics and on the actual wrestling skill of the women involved. You see various ways that women's wrestling can be promoted in the United States, but we choose to be kind of like the Ring of Honor for women, where we put all the emphasis on the wrestling, and if they happen to look a little bit attractive in the process, so be it.
So what you're saying, Dave, is you don't go through a bikini magazine and just pick out who you want to have come wrestle for you?
No, that's not part of the hiring process here, and we don't care if you're Playboy material or not. We just care if you can wrestle. So.
What motivated you to found the Shimmer promotion, rather?
I guess I could trace it back to when I was regularly managing and, in Milwaukee for Carmine Despirito's Mid-American Wrestling several years ago.
Managing CM Punk, among others.
Yes. But more often than not, as a manager, if I was feuding with another manager, it was a female valet or sometimes women wrestlers who were only booked on the show to manage somebody, even though they were trained as wrestlers. So I because I was working with female wrestlers as managers, kind of felt for them. It's like, well, you can wrestle. Why aren't you booked on the show to actually be in a match? Mm-hmm. So I kind of started to champion women's wrestling on the indie scene and made enough connections that I decided to see how a DVD series of serious women's wrestling would sell to the Ring of Honor audience. And for about 5 years now, we've been doing very well. So we're filming volumes 33 through 36 this weekend.
Wow. Now, Dave, you've managed against a lot of the greats, but who is the best beating you ever took from somebody?
Probably the Skull Crusher. And that was in Milwaukee for Mid-American, and shortly after dropping me on my head with a Death Valley driver, he shaved my head. That was 1998, I believe.
Nice.
And Sherry Martel, too. I actually was on the opposite side of the ring from Sherry in a mixed tag team match in Milwaukee as well.
And Sherry could kill anybody.
Yes, he was tough.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like every month there's a new set of fans. For those of you that haven't seen an ROH match or an ROH anything, what are they going to get when they watch it online or live?
Well, much like I described the Shimmer product, the emphasis is on the athleticism. More often than not, the title matches or the headlining matches last for upwards of 20 to 30 minutes. There was a recent internet pay-per-view we did from Toronto, Death Before Dishonor 8, where Tyler Black and Davey Richards wrestled for over 40 minutes, I believe. If it wasn't over 40, it was just shy of 40. And it was an incredible physical match. Had the fans in attendance chanting "Match of the Year" at the end of the bout, and that's what ROH prides itself on, delivering inside the ring in terms of match quality. That's why Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas have been brought into Ring of Honor, and their first ROH match is against the best tag team in Ring of Honor today, the World Tag Team Champions, because we want to deliver the best product possible, and in Ring of Honor's mind, it's the best athletes that can deliver inside the ring.
Shimmer, is there a website available for fans to take a look at some of the broadcasts or take a look at some footage and order those DVDs?
Yes, the website is shimmerwrestling.com. We got the posters for this weekend's tapings up with all of the talent that will be featured on the events. Got some videos. Tickets are still available.
And that's in Berwyn.
shimmerwrestling.com.
It's really not that far from here, Berwyn, Illinois, and actually we've got listeners all over the world.
Yeah, it's an easy shot down 94, just outside Chicago. So, and it's going to be at 2 p.m. bell time on Saturday and a 1 p.m. bell time on Sunday. So the shows should be wrapped up in plenty of time to get back to Milwaukee if you decide to make the trip by 8 or 9 p.m.
Excellent. Well, Dave Prazak, great talking to you. It's been a long time, and really. We should get you back on sometime to really talk about some of the glory days of wrestling here in Milwaukee, because there's so many stories and so many big talents and names coming out of the Milwaukee area here. It's just there's be a lot to talk about. But good luck this weekend with Shimmer. Obviously, as we talked about, Ring of Honor, Glory by Honor 9 also available this weekend as well. Berwyn, Illinois, at the Eagles Club is the location. 1 o'clock Saturday, 2 o'clock Sunday, or 2 o'clock Saturday, 1 o'clock Sunday. And you go to shimmerwrestling.com for all the information and to get a preview of what you're going to be in store for this weekend. Dave Prazak, thank you so much for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Overreact with Homer, weekdays at 2 on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Ooh, yeah!
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live We're live Wednesday, September 8th. Special primetime edition of the Pro Wrestling Report going up to the end of the Brewers game here, which is in the bottom of the 8th inning. So we're going to accelerate the pace here and go to a very patient caller from down in the home of TNA Wrestling, Orlando, Florida, the MCO, the OBT. Glenn, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Glenn. Good, Glenn.
Horrendous.
I have a comment about Eric Bischoff.
Go for it.
How come Eric Bischoff, every time that I hear him, he's either disrespecting the fans, the people that watch his product, or he's saying that the wrestling fans are internet and everyone else is on internet.
Well, I think, Glenn, and thank you very much for that call. It's a great point, especially given what we talked about our top story on PWR Primetime last Friday. Eric Bischoff has created his own personal campaign, if you will, to get rid of quote-unquote stupid wrestling fans, not all of them, but quote-unquote, as he said, stupid wrestling fans one by one. Now, I'm not going to defend Eric Bischoff, but
you're going to defend him.
No. It's very, very difficult, even from our standpoint, at least I'll speak for myself, my standpoint, criticizing something that you've never done and criticizing something that you don't fully understand.
Right.
And that's got to be taken, and it's got to be done in a constructive fashion, which a lot of times, a lot of fans of a lot of things fail to do. And that's the key, constructive fashion. Saying Russo sucks, Hogan sucks, Bischoff sucks, Dixie sucks, Hero sucks, any of that stuff. Wow.
Well, I'm in that kind of company. I don't care.
Has no context unless there's actionable items in there. Make it constructive, make it worthwhile. We get a lot of feedback on this show. And some of the things we actually pay attention to and read and listen to because it makes sense. It's like, all right, you know what? Okay, yeah, that's a valid point. There's some reasoning behind that. I believe that's where Eric Bischoff is coming from. Now, I can't speak for Eric Bischoff, but we talked, David Hero, this past primetime we spent 15 minutes talking about Eric Bischoff's most recent comments about TNA and about the Internet wrestling community. And Eric Bischoff takes a bit of an arrogant role at times.
But that's
as it pertains to wrestling fans, but does it show a lack of understanding potentially of those same fans and the alienation he may be causing by running down those fans?
He beat Vince McMahon for how many straight weeks?
84.
Okay.
Or 2.
That's where the arrogance comes from. He was beating the master at his own game.
That was 10 years ago.
Doesn't make a difference.
Longer than 10
it doesn't
years
make
ago.
a difference.
It's a whole new set
Look
of fans.
Look at Joe Montana.
Who?
Exactly. But how long ago was that? He's still a god. He acts like that. Michael Jordan walks around like he owns the NBA. He hasn't played in forever.
What do you own the team in Charlotte?
Eric Bischoff, that's just who he is.
He's back and better than ever.
He's trying to, in my opinion, do what he did as far as creating that controversy, which is the name of his book, and seeing if it sticks.
He does want his jacket back, though, Frank.
Well, but
no.
but it gets to a point. It gets to a point, though, where when do you cross that line? And you know what? His mistake might be responding. Because to be honest with you, a lot of times the best response is no response, but acknowledgement, at least amongst yourself, of some of these comments that are out there. Glenn from down in Orlando, thank you very much for that call, and let's go ahead and continue to appreciate our fans and continue to be the interactive juggernaut that we are. And let's go to David in Michigan. You're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, my man.
What do you have, David?
I want to talk about AJ Styles.
A phenomenal one. Go right ahead.
I don't think they should be using him as a heel. I think it should be more Kurt Angle in Fortune than AJ and have AJ as the face.
They need to get these young stars over,
right.
And Ric Flair is the one guy that can make them all stars. The rub from Ric Flair makes them main events, makes them important. As much as I like Frankie Kazarian and Beer Money, they were great hands, great talents. They get the Ric Flair rub. Now Kaz is wearing a suit to the ring, has a different look, different swagger. He becomes a star.
Right. Isn't it almost like, and as part of the whole Be the Booker thing, maybe we should do a segment of the wrestling ladder, if you will, the steps that you have to take to get to the point of a Ric Flair, a Triple H, a Shawn Michaels, an Undertaker, a Kane. And because it really is, it happens in steps and in levels, and you can't prescribe it for everybody. You can't prescribe it for everybody, but there are those general things that we should go over.
I can't believe you put Kane and Ric Flair in the same sentence.
There is a progression. There is a progression from jumping into wrestling to getting to the top. Obviously, the fans have a lot to do with it, but
I was watching the Hell in a Cell DVD earlier because I had this urge to hear JR say, "Good God Almighty, that killed him. As God is my witness, he is broken in half." And I ended up letting the thing play while I was doing some other stuff. And gosh, I missed the '90s. It was just the energy, the excitement, the passion, the business, the time, the place, the people.
Fun.
It was fun, Dave. It was fun.
Before internet, basically.
The internet, which changed wrestling forever.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, Hulk Hogan's on Twitter. Well, let me go back. The real Hulk Hogan. Wait, no, let me mention again. Terry Bollea is on Twitter. And as you know, he has been hospitalized the last few days with quote-unquote excruciating back pain. Looks like he pulled a muscle or something of the like. But he's been twit-bitting out some videos of his comments about TNA Wrestling, saying that they are going to again revolutionize the business. Well, you certainly want to tune in to the Pro Wrestling Report primetime this Friday because we're going to talk about that in-depthly. We're also going to talk about how awesome The Miz was on Raw this past Monday night. We're going to talk about last Friday's SmackDown and last Thursday's Impact and more as we go into our broadcast on Friday, the Pro Wrestling Report prime time. So let's go to our final caller of the evening. Let's go down to Orlando, Florida. Caller, you're live on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Oh, yeah, dig it, brother. Yo, I was just over down there at Orlando. I just saw the TNA event.
Right. That deserves a...
Thanks, pal.
There you go.
Wow. What happened?
know what? I think. I got the magic, baby. I got the magic, baby.
Damian Nelson.
I actually wanted to hear that
world.
at that point.
Wow. Hey, the Thanks Pal shirts. Top seller right now, aren't they?
Top seller. You put a monkey on
Over
a shirt,
the
out the window.
DHHS? I can't believe
Absolutely.
Speaking
Whoa.
of, no, because I know that,
Point that thing at him.
we could have a double
Yeah.
play here if we're going to end the show. December.
Oh,
someone.
we have a big announcement.
Blizzard
That's why
Bro-
Frank's here.
yes,
He brings it all
yes.
back together.
Thank
a
you,
big
Frank.
talent announcement
Blizzard Brawl 6.
for Blizzard Brawl 6 on December 4th, I think.
On Saturday, December 4th, it will be a fatal four-way for the GLCW Ladies Championship.
A four-way.
Yeah, four-way.
Fatal.
Yes. Wiki against Tracy Brooks, the ODB, and Serena.
Serena
Wow.
D. Formerly of
Serena.
the Straight Edge Society is going to be at
Yes.
Blizzard Brawl 6.
Yes. Along with Ken Anderson, Demolition, Beefcake and Valentine, the Hurricane,
Wow.
Al Snow, Scotty Tuhati, and more names to be announced soon.
And all those names will be announced at BlizzardBrawl.com. BlizzardBrawl.com. Go to the website. You can order tickets right now. I
Yep.
understand those meet and greet tickets in front
Well,
row
you got to get them now.
are just
They
about
are selling
gone.
quickly, yes.
So you want to head over to BlizzardBrawl.com and go ahead and find out all the activities about.
It's going to be the
Blizzard
biggest show of the year. King
Absolutely.
Kong Bundy, King
It
Kong
is
Bundy
always the biggest show
calls
of the year.
it the WrestleMania of the Independents.
I think that's well put.
Yeah.
As we said, this Saturday it's Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor 9. It's going to be on GoFightLive.tv. You know, it's a show worth checking out. If you have the opportunity to do so, you can order it online, watch it on your computer. And also, if you're in the Berwyn, Illinois area, ShimmerWrestling.com, ShimmerWrestling.com. 25 of the top female pro wrestlers, including Hamada from TNA Wrestling.
Female pro wrestlers.
Female pro wrestlers, including Hamada from TNA Wrestling. It's going to be this weekend.
He's up to
in
volume 36
That's a lot.
of that.
That's as high as you got on Girls Gone Wild, isn't it? Because you
No,
were
I
the
got
first one, and they kept coming.
That's
Really?
That's the gimmick. You order one, they just keep sending them to you.
Yes, they do.
Y'all didn't fall for that?
I never ordered it.
Oh, no, me neither. What is it? Never heard of it.
Word.
Yeah.
I was ordering all the Dean Martin roasts, so I'm on to volume 30.
Were you drinking apple juice while you're...
Absolutely.
Really? Dean Martin?
Oh, yeah.
That's your guy, huh?
Well, that's genre.
Ah. Oh, hold on.
Wait a minute.
No.
Well, we're hoping
Alberto
for-
Del Rio is at least 6'3".
Oh,
He is
okay.
not 5'5".
Of course, not 6'4" or 5.
No,
like he
because
actually
he's
is.
somewhere between 5 and
wait,
6.5.
wait. It's because there's lift in his boot.
Oh, why? He's lifting? You're a kid.
They
You're
all
a legend.
do.
He's lifting.
Every single
they
one of
all
them.
do. Now
Cody
you're
Rhodes has a 4-inch lift in his
terrible.
boots. Look at the boots. You can tell there's a lift in them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind all of you out there, in case you did not note that significant moment in the show, David Hero just mentioned the name Cody Rhodes. For the first time mentioned on this program this week, by the way.
Yeah.
So you got it all out of your system. Pope, Cody.
I don't have anything against them. I'm just not their fan.
Oh, no. You're the Pope's fan. You turned to you saw the
No.
light.
Listen, I think Pope is very talented. Absolutely he is. But hey, Ken Anderson's my guy. Who am I going to cheer for? You know?
We're not making this about
No, it
Ken
is.
Anderson.
It is.
All right.
It's about
PWR
it's
Prime
about power.
Time this Friday, Time Warner Cable Channel 14, and on demand at PWRshow.com. We'll get to everything we couldn't get to tonight. The Brewers game is over. Coming up next, it's Extra Innings right here on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.